The other day on my YouTube channel, I received a comment from a regular viewer. He said, "Colin, I like your videos, but you should make them shorter. They're too long." Okay. Here are two videos. At first glance, they might seem like they're kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum. One is ask any reporter in America, ask any public official in America, and would be a minor crime where no one is injured. Sure, it was a little robbery, but the cops have bigger fish to fry than that. And the other end of the spectrum is something that was just in the news today, where that is where the bigger fish to fry. Family of three and their maid died in Washington, D.C. You'll see the video. So you tell me, which one do we cut out?
Jaw-dropping new video of criminals robbing children at gunpoint. It's one thing to tell you about it, but actually seeing the terror on the faces of these kids will really make you mad. This latest robbery happened just a mile away from where children were robbed of their backpacks near Beneke Elementary last week. Eyewitness News reporter Foti Kalergis is live with the exclusive video tonight. Foti?
Yeah, Eric, these bad guys are bold, and they're targeting their victims in the middle of the day in very public places like this neighborhood park here. And here's what they're going after. They're going after cell phones, backpacks, and even wallets, and they really don't care how young their victims are.
Super Bowl Sunday, 3 teens seen on surveillance video walking into this Northeast Houston park. Then, out of nowhere, guns drawn, they ambush a young girl and go after another one who tried to get away.
After they took their cell phone, they immediately left the park.
Leonard Cummings is the general manager of the park. He showed us yet another armed robbery just days later, February 13th. 3 teens seen walking in, pants sagging, they scope out the park. Their next victim, a father who was watching his high school kids play tennis. They beat him up, took his wallet, and then turned the guns on the 2 high school tennis players who tried to fight them off with a racket.
When something like this happens, it's an egregious event.
The bad guys run off, only to come back to take a backpack.
So if kids are robbing kids out here, that's scary. That's very scary, very dangerous.
Even more scary moments and more victims just about a mile away in the Torrey Pines neighborhood. We told you about it last week. 12-year-old students robbed as they were getting off the school bus. The suspects took their backpacks before beating up the kids.
It's teens on teens. That's what's happening, teens on teens. So what happened to our moral compass?
We have a lot of viewers down in Houston, including several members of Houston's law enforcement community. Cops, sheriffs, even a prosecutor. I hear from them. They say there's a lot of stuff going on in Houston that people never really hear about. Or when they do hear about it, they hear about it like this. So this young lady is asking us, where is our moral compass? My moral compass is fine, thank you, and it helps me tell the difference between a truth and a lie. We just saw an example, several really explicit examples of black on white crime. You're trying to tell me it's teen on teen? I'm sorry, that is a lie. Inside the newsroom, people know it's not the truth. There might even be some people in that newsroom in Houston who really know it's not the truth. The other people are caught up in the cycle of denial, deceit, delusion, where they can pretend like this young lady with the pampered princess hat is pretending that it's teen on teen. There's nothing else going on here. When the first people we saw them pull out their guns on those 2 white kids, I think there were 2 girls. Do you think that was a life-changing event? You better believe it is. And what about the family at the tennis court? Do you think that was a life-changing event? You better believe that is too. Kids on the school bus, there were white kids getting off that bus. And the kids that robbed them and beat them, remember they robbed them first, then they beat them.
We have to begin by facing up to the reality of systemic racism. Because these are not only problems of economic inequality, these are problems of racial inequality.
You know, the robbery is not, the robbery or the money, the reward of the robbery is not the joy. It's not the motivation. It's not what drives them. It's the domination. It's the act of, it's the act of violence. That's what they're getting off on. It's the laughs afterwards. Did you see that person's face? Did you see how scared they were? The laughs, the high fives that follow that conversation. This isn't like some modern day version of Les Mis, where people will go out robbing where teenagers going out robbing people in tennis courts to put a loaf of bread on their family's table. It's not like that. That's not what it is. Let's look at an example from the other extreme, Washington, D.C., an extreme of black on white violence.
New developments tonight in the quadruple murder of a family and their housekeeper in their Northwest home. 9 months after those crimes took place, we are now learning that only one person is being charged.
Fox 5's Marina Morocco is live from the Woodley Park mansion with the details. Marina.
Yeah, Laura, Sarah, that is a development in itself because for a long time, investigators insisted that Darren Winton likely did not act alone. And this indictment coming down just minutes ago here, and we're learning he is now being charged with 20 felony charges. And I'll read you the list because it includes a litany of them, including 4 first-degree murder charges for the deaths of Amy Savas, Philip Savopoulos, including their housekeeper, Veralicia Figueroa. But the charges that are also listed in this indictment are burglary, kidnapping, extortion, arson, and theft, all for the slayings that happened here at this Woodley Park mansion back in May. Now, all of this just coming down, we're also learning that in the indictment, investigators say Wint entered the Savopoulos home, seized and kidnapped those 4 victims, and stole $40,000 through means of extortion, murdered the victims, and then set fire to the house. It was only once investigators responded to the call for the fire that they found all 4 victims inside this home, brutally murdered.
Well, there was a lot of things they didn't really get into in this story. One, let's talk about the guy who committed the crime, Darren Wint. Darren is from Guyana. He came here in the year 2010. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He came here in the year 2000. And in the 15 years he was in this country, he had at least 30 encounters with the law. Some he was arrested for, some he was not. Some he was arrested for, the charges were dropped. We're talking about sexual assault. We're talking about assault with a machete. We're talking about beating up his girlfriend, threatening to kill her. We're talking 30 of these things. Then one day he ends up in this mansion of the guy owned by the guy who a company Darren used to work for, and he's holding him hostage. Says, "I want money." While he waited for the guy's assistant to deliver the money, $40,000, he tortured them. He tortured the child. Then he killed all 4 and he set the house on fire, though he may have set the child on fire before the others. They think the child was on fire and tortured in order to get the compliance of the family. That's what we're dealing with here. So we've got 2 cases on either end. Do you think they're really all that different? Or do you think there's an enormous amount of hostility, rage, and anger, and racial anger involved in these things? Of course, I can hear the trolls now. Colin, you don't have any proof. You don't have any proof that the cases were racially motivated. Here's the proof. Mr. Darren Wint, he may have neglected to leave a little sign saying, "I don't like white people," and ditto for those kids in that park, those black people in that park in Houston. But the pattern of black on white crime is so overwhelming compared to white on black crime. that we know that, I mean, it's like 50 times worse, 30, 40, 50 times worse. And when you throw a rape in there, then we're in the thousands of times worse. So we know there's something really, really, really wrong, and we know that reporters and public officials are totally invested in ignoring, denying, condoning, excusing, encouraging, and even lying about it. That's why we're doing these videos. That's why I wrote Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. And that's why we do it all, without racism, without rancor, without apology. There's something really terrible going on. There's a lot of deceit, denial, deceit, delusion. The only way we can fight the denial and deceit is with the truth. That's what we're doing here. This is Colin Flaherty. I'm the author of Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. We're building up a huge inventory of black on white crime, black mob violence, and black criminality, wildly out of proportion. And each and every second of every one of these videos, every word of my books, is really a challenge. Show me that white people are doing this too, and anywhere near this amount. And if you bring me up an old newspaper clipping from 1907, that basically proves my point that it's not happening today. If you're visiting Washington, D.C. or Houston in the year 2016 and not 1816, have fun, but remember one thing. Don't make the black kids angry.